Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to bring you a DIY Dollar Tree Farmhouse Hobby Lobby dupe. And I saw this on website for hobbylobby.com and we're going to do a little hour version of it, but I really thought it was super cute. I did not want to pay even $17 for it. So we're going to use this heart sign from this year's Valentine's I found. But also from the summertime, we found these signs. That's a beach and salt water. And from the autumn, we found these cute little harvest welcome and thankful signs. We're going to use the welcome sign from it. And then you're going to use some of our homemade white chalk paint. You can also use acrylic paint if you want. And then we're going to use some black paint to tint it, as well as our glue gun and scissor and craft knife, as well as some of the wide popsicle sticks. They're called craft sticks. You get 100 for $1 at the Dollar Tree. So where do we start? Yes, the bottom of this heart will become the top of our barn. Basically, I'm just going to work on the back of it. You can take the time to peel the paper if you want to get a finished back. I'm not going to do that. I'm jumping ahead on that step. I think I kind of like the fact that I just told Jimmy to turn it around and look at the back and you could see what it used to be. But anyhow, we're just going to take the bottom two pieces off of the heart sign and we're going to paint them with a base coat of our homemade chalk paint. It doesn't have to be neat. It doesn't have to be full coverage. It's just going to be sloppy because not only are we going to put a second coat on this, but we want it to be weathered. I am getting all the edges, which I found to be pretty important. Even the ones we're going to glue together, I went ahead and I painted them too. Okay, and then once you have that covered, you're just going to go ahead and set that aside. The next thing we're going to work on is the signs. Now, on the inspiration piece, the signs were not arrows. So we're going to go ahead and cut these. I don't think you guys might not know how easy it is to cut these MDFs from the Dollar Tree. We're just going to use our craft knife. This is the one that I found at the Dollar Tree in the hardware section. So I'm just going to use the one, you could use your ruler. I'm just going to use the one board up against the other board and just going to cut many cuts. You don't have to use too much pressure, just use a lot of extra work. Then I'm going to snap it and continue to cut until it is clean off. I like to turn it on its side and clear up the back, any overages, any hangover, as you can see there as I did that. So we're just going to repeat with the other side, with the other board, excuse me. And what I did was I made sure that these were a good width. So if you're going to use other signs that you might have laying around from other holidays or vacations, just make sure it's wide enough to match sort of that bottom two pieces of heart. I'm sure because you can cut the MDF so easily, you could pretty much cut that barn top out of any big sign that you have, like the one we used yesterday from Valentine's Day. Any of those you could probably cut the shape of the barn out of as well. So we're going to go ahead and put two quick coats. This just like we did for the two pieces of the heart. I stuck my thumb right in it, but it goes coverage right over. And again, these don't have to be neat. We're going to add their additional coats on the top when we're done. We're just putting these as a base coat to get started. All right. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to glue these two boards together. And I'll show you when we... they don't exactly line up. Do you kind of see that? And that's what's going to make that great barn top. That the fact that they're not lined up, it's going to really help add to that great peak that you get with barn. So I put a bead of glue just on one of the pieces and I pushed them together. And yes, they are glued to my mat, and that was intentional. It wasn't intentional that they were glued off center, but they're glued to my mat because I'm going to work on my mat. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of the popsicle sticks and I laid it across that first section and I kind of found the center point of the eave and I drew a straight line up. And then I used the first popsicle stick to find the angle and match it on the second popsicle stick. But I just kept trimming it and sanding and trimming and cutting until I got the angle worked out where they matched up. Then I took this the third popsicle stick and I laid it over, and you see where it bends and it kind of goes in the different direction where the seams are. I just drew a straight line across from where the seams met. I cut that popsicle stick off at that line, and then I used it. I kept the angle on the eaves that I wanted to, that I that I wanted to have. And then I went ahead and I drew it on the popsicle stick from underneath. And you can see once I cut it, I will need to work it out a little bit. I'm going to sand a little bit. You trim a little bit and you just work on it that way. Try not to trim too much because you can always sand it down. But you know, once you've cut off too much, then it's hard to go ahead and add it. But because popsicle sticks, these craft sticks are so inexpensive, you can mess it up and you can practice. I would really highly recommend you guys work with them. I just love them. I'm sorry. They just add that little extra something, you know? And they're so inexpensive and easy to work with. No tools required, just a scissor. And once you have the right sides cut, you can just cut a second one exactly the same size for the left side. So now I'm going to take the chalk paint and I'm going to add a little bit thicker of a coat. And why do I want it so thick? I'll show you. I'm going to take a scrap of popsicle stick. You could also do this with any scrap piece of paper or scrap, maybe the points that you cut off. And I'm going to run it on its side straight up and down to create barn boards. I know the inspiration piece didn't really have barn boards like that, but I really wanted barn boards in mine. So, end of story. So now we're going to work on to the two last pieces. We're going to paint this one white because this one's going to say Farmhouse, black lettering on a white board. And then the other one, we're going to go ahead and mix a little bit of a gray, sort of a dark gray. We're going to take some of the gray that we've been using throughout our crafting here, which is just basically an old bottle of white, added water, a drop of black, and I mixed it up until I got the color that I wanted. And I'm just adding it to some white chalk paint here. And then until I get the darkness of the gray I want, I'm just going to add a drop of black at a time. Be patient when you're mixing colors. Don't add too much because then it might be too dark and then you can't really take it back out again. It does take a lot more paint to make something lighter than it does to make something darker. Okay? And then just going to mix it all up until I have it the way I like it. And then I'm going to go ahead and add that coat onto the second board. Now, in full disclosure, this entire project was done in just about 2 hours. But you want the things to dry between him. But with this chalk paint, it does dry really quickly. So now I'm just taking a wet paper towel and I'm added it to a tiny bit of the gray, really, really wet. And I just wanted to dust it over that whiteboard because I just wanted to age it a tiny bit. All right. And now get a little black paint in the cap and we're going to paint the eave boards. I am even painting where they're going to be glued together just so you don't have, sometimes the glue dries clear and then you'll see like the raw wood in the crack. So I want to paint all the areas that I'm going to glue even, okay? Because I don't want anything underlying to show. And as far as the two boards that get kind of cut off at the bottom, I just glued them up to like where I could hold the popsicle stick. I'm gluing the edges as well, okay? So now back to the roof line. We're going to go ahead and make that window. If you looked at the inspiration piece, it had a cute little barn window on it. It was not, we're going to kind of paint it black. You could do whatever you want color-wise. You can actually just draw one on if you want to, but I had popsicle sticks and craft sticks and they're cut easy, and this didn't have to be perfect. This was supposed to look like an old rundown barn. So I just went ahead and I made a square. I cut two pieces. I actually cut a piece shorter than the two sides, and then I trimmed them long ways to make two boards out of the one width of popsicle stick. And then I glued them north, south, east, and west. Well, actually, it would technically be east, west, north, and south. So then we're going to do the cross in the middle. We're just going to make one long board going, in on one angle, and then we're going to make two short boards to go on the other angle, so I don't have to worry about being overlapped or anything. And I am not worrying about cutting the perfect corners and the perfect angles. Like I said, this is supposed to be like a handmade project, so I'm not really too worried about it being very perfect. But then we're going to go ahead and I'm going to paint it black, and I'm only painting the very, very surface. I'm trying not to get the edges. And that's just my own preference. You can paint these before if you want to. You can build this window off onto the craft mat if you want, and you can, there's lots of different ways you guys can do it. This is just the way I've chosen to do it. Okay? And I am using a little bit of paint to fill in basically wherever the boards basically left a holiday. Okay, so I don't want to hear how great my handwriting is. I'm freehanding this. I appreciate all your wonderful compliments. But we have done so many different lettering transfer techniques. Uh, we've done videos with lettering practicing techniques. Um, you could just copy this straight from the inspiration piece, like print it out and just trace it that way. But I am just going to pencil line the word farmhouse. I wanted to fill up the whole board. I'm not really worried about if the pencil lines get left behind because this is for me. This isn't a gift. This is for our farmhouse. And then I'm just taking black acrylic paint. I've used the brush from the Dollar Tree and I'm pushing it down to make its entire width. It's just the letters. It's nothing fancy. Like I said, I'm not doing anything fancy at first. I'm just going ahead and I'm just printing all capital letters to spell out the word farmhouse. And I'm trying to stay within the parameters of the letters that I stenciled in so as to not run out of room. How many times have I done projects in my life? You guys don't even know where I've run out of room and I've had to like repaint the whole thing and start all over. Everybody's always so kind to me in the comments, but I have to tell you, I've been doing stuff like this for way too long to still have it be this ugly. And I'm not trying to be hard on myself. I really have been doing projects and lettering like this since high school. And my sister Jane, if she's watching, she would tell you she could pick my lettering out of like from a lineup because it's so specific to me and I've been basically doing the same thing since for 30 years. So anyhow, so I'm just writing the word farmhouse and I do want it to look handmade. If you have a Cricut and you want to print these out of vinyl, you can. If you have a Cricut and you want to make a stencil out of vinyl, that you can. If you like I said, if you want to print it out and do the rub-on transfer, that works. You want to get transfer paper, that works. There's so many different ways to achieve the writing that happens. We've gone over, I feel like we've done everything at one point or another. All right? There's lots of videos in the DIY playlist on my channel, and on there you can see we've done all kinds of verbiage. And then what I just did was I just added the little like Times New Roman kind of like little dashes at the tops and the bottoms of all the letters. And now for this one, I've taken this watered down brown paint we used when we stained the heart for the infinity heart, and I just have the jar, and I actually just went like a little overboard. I started to rub too much paint off the bottom there. I was trying to achieve the look that I wanted, and I just kept rubbing. Sometimes less is more. But I just wanted to do this to add another dimension of like stain to this board to make it a little bit darker. Like the inspiration piece, I think is like full on brown or red. I don't exactly remember right this second. Now I'm just taking the paintbrush that had the gray paint layered on it, and all I did was just waited till it was almost dry and dragged the point of it up to accentuate more of the barn boards. Okay. Then I used a dry fit technique to lay my eaves down, and while I had them in place, I made sure I picked up one, glued it, put it back where it belonged, picked up the other one, glued it, put it back where it belonged, and I repeated with the bottom two. But then what I didn't realize that I did was I should have lined up the bottom two first before I glued, because what I ended up doing was putting that top board at a little bit of a wrong angle on the right side. So it was not a big deal. All I had to do was take that board and trim it down. And this is the exact reason why we didn't cut the boards short in the beginning, because I wanted to give myself some leeway if I messed up. Okay? And look, who knew I messed up? So you could see there was just like a bubble of glue, and that's where we're going to take our craft knife or our utility knife or whatever, and we're just going to clean up whatever glue bubbles might have come out from underneath the popsicle sticks. And then I'm just going to turn it over, cut the sticks off. I did leave them hang over the bottom just about 1/8 of an inch, not very much. You don't have to do that. That just was my preference. And then I've just taken that black paintbrush that still had a little bit of paint on it and just blackened in the edges and went over that window, because when I drew the stripes, some of the paint got on the window frame. But that's also, I wasn't, it doesn't make a difference to me. Now this is to say 2 hour. The inspiration piece just had it printed with a normal lowercase font, nothing special. I just wanted to go ahead and add more of the cursive. I know that the word welcome is in cursive, but I just felt like it gave it a little bit more balance in my eyes. So, but what I did the same width of paint. I wrote the words too smaller than the word hour. This was just a design element that I wanted to add. That's not necessary. And I just, like I said, freehanded it. And what I like about this font, and I know we've talked about this before, is if you watched when I painted the word farmhouse, I was very particular about making sure the letters go. They both start and end, the tops and the bottoms, at the same places, because that's been an ongoing issue for me for a long time. But what's great about this font is they don't all start and end at the same tops and bottoms. As you can see, like when you look at them, a lot of times the R is all the way up there, or the O is all the way up there. Actually, A's and R's. I feel like the A's and R's don't end at the bottom line. So it just gives you some creative license. That's all I was going to say. So I just painted it all with one thickness, and then I went ahead and I double layered the downstrokes with a second thickness of paint, and then set it off to dry. And now once everything is dry, we're going to put it together. So what I didn't mention in the beginning was the kind of flat burlappy string that had come off the summer sign is what we're going to use to strap these three pieces together. It was just the thing that I liked the most. It kind of just really reminds me of burlap, which was, so farmhousey, right? So now this is probably the most difficult part of the project, other than trying to get the metal signs back in the package, is just to making sure that you have it even, left and right, top to bottom, all the spaces even. And this isn't a necessity. You just don't want it to hang crooked is really why. So once I have it spaced out the way I liked it, and I'm actually using the ruler to measure the distance between the roof and the first board, making sure the boards are lined up, spaced evenly from left to right, is I flip them all over, and then I just double check my measurements. And now I've laid the ruler across the bottom, because these boards are cut to be about 10 1/4 inches. So I basically made it, so it's 10 inches. Like I put the ruler, and then I measured in 3 inches from each side. And then I glued straight up one board at a time. I decided not to just go big glue and then have to worry about getting the burlap down fast enough. So what I did was I glued it to the first board. I let it set up. And then when it was set up, I glued it to the second board, and I let it set up. And then I glued it to the roof, and then I let it set up before I went ahead and I glued it to the word welcome. And the word welcome, I was kind of contemplating, like, how am I going to glue it to this word welcome? So what after trimming off the top, we're going to go ahead and put a hanger on it. We're just actually this piece of jute was taken off of the project from last night. It was taken off of the sign from the Dollar Tree. It's just tied it in 2 knots and glued it on the back, just to the right of where the straps were. So once I turn it over, then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to glue the word welcome. And this was sort of like, how do you glue this metal to this burlap and try to keep it in place? So, really the only answer I can give you is very carefully. I tried to just eyeball the best I could. I put it on the glue mat because I didn't want the burlap to go through. And I moved it around so it's set up. And then once it was tacked on there, like just really minimally tacked on there, I turned it over and I added some more glue to the backs of the metal letters through the burlap. And I even went over just onto the metal, so it has like more of a bridge of glue. Okay? And once that's set up and you pick off some paper, that's it. I really so love this. I'm so glad I didn't have to pay $17 for it. I hope you guys have some of these materials around, or you can find some of these materials and you get to make this. I'd be so excited if you shared it with me. If you have any questions at all, please leave them in the comments down below. Don't forget to share with friends and family, anybody you know might be interested in seeing how we made this, cutting chipboard, painting signs, any of the techniques we used today. And if you haven't yet, click subscribe, and when you do, a little bell will pop up. When you ring that bell, YouTube will let you know whenever I upload a new video. And if you get a chance to stop by the vlog channel, the link is in the description box down below. And as always, you take care, God bless, and we'll see you next time. Bye!